Hey everyone, today I'll be rating the drivers' performances of the 2024 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix for Formula 2. Let me know if you agree and post your driver ratings down below in the comments to let me know what you think. Let's get into it, starting as always with the ART team. Victor Martins, I'll give a 5. A very disappointing weekend yet again for Martins. What is going on with him this year? Maybe he doesn't like these new ground effect cars, or maybe it's just not sorting itself up over one lap. Because he has race pace, but not single lap qualifying pace. It was a very similar weekend to Australia, where quali was a shocker coming last, but he redeemed it in both races, showing race pace is solid, working his way up to 12th in the sprint and 9th in the feature race, with the fastest lap and a good strategy. He needs to figure out qualifying quick if he doesn't want to be left behind in the championship. His teammate Zach O'Sullivan gets a 4, one less for Victor Martins' teammate. I think he had a very similar weekend to his teammate, qualifying down the order in 18th and working up to 9th in the sprint and 12th in the feature. Both performances just missing out on points. He's unlucky to be rated under his teammate, as strategy is what ultimately decided his fate this weekend and allowed Martins to outperform him as his teammate. Now moving on to Prema Racing, we have Oliver Bearman. I have to give him a 6, honestly. A strong qualifying, coming in second, although there was some controversy over whether he remained on track for the whole lap. He also showed a solid performance in the sprint, the 5th place. However, in the feature race, he messed up. He was doing well, he was going to come to the pit, but he stalled twice. That's his fault, and it ruined his race. I'm not sure at this stage whether it's just nerves or something, because he is in prime position for the Haas seat in 2025. But he is languishing in 20th in the championship, and needs to pick it up if he still wants to be an F1 contender moving in to the later part of the season. Andrea Kimi Antonelli gets 7 points. Once again, a weekend where he outperforms his teammate overall. I mean, Bearman definitely had a better pace in both quali and in the races, but Antonelli kept it together, kept it clean, scored points, and this earned him 4th in the feature race after qualifying in the same position. Antonelli will be looking to build on the feature race performance going into Monaco next weekend and the rest of the European races the next few months. And then we have Rodin with Zane Maloney scoring 7. I think this weekend was okay for Maloney. Not great, but enough. It's clear it's not a strong circuit for him, qualifying down the 6th, but he made up places in the sprint to get a podium. In the feature race though, he couldn't get past the resilient Stanek on a track that's difficult to pass, which ruined his shot at points as the alternate strategy runners went long and overcut him. Enough to keep him in first of the championship, but he'll be looking over his shoulder at Aaron and Hadjar, who are close behind. Return Mieta scores 3 points. He qualified down in 16th position and stayed in those middle teen slots all weekend long as he struggled to assert himself on the point scoring positions. He is vastly more experienced than any of these drivers, apart from maybe for sure, but he doesn't show it. He's definitely struggling. I know Toyota are lining him up for an endurance seat next year, maybe in like Le Mans in that category, but they might reconsider if he keeps up these kind of performances that are ultimately not where you would expect him to be. And then we have Dams with Jack Crawford. He was quite invisible a lot this weekend, and I scored him a 6 for that. He had a tough qualifying going down 21st place, which is odd for a driver of his calibre. But he worked his way up to 14th in the sprint, aided by 5 other drivers DNFing, and showed really good pace in the feature race, doing what Maloney couldn't do and getting past Stanek. Eventually working his way up to 7th. I think a really underrated weekend for Crawford, who I didn't think got a lot of camera attention over the weekend. One Manuel Correa gets a 6. His best weekend so far for Correa. His first points for the season as well, as he made the alternate strategy work, going long in the feature race. He outqualified his teammate and got 20th, which is poor, but he still got points with his alternate strategy, hence the 6. Now we move on to Invicta, starting with Kush Miney. I give him a 5. I think he might have thought he might have been in the Dams this weekend as he qualified way low down the order, like the 2 Dams boys, but then made up places in the race as he qualified down in 17th and worked his way up to the points in the sprint race. He did try the alternate strategy going long in the feature race, but it didn't quite pay off with his pace not being quite there in the first stint, so he finished down in 14th. Not a bad performance by any means, but compared to his teammate, terrible. Gabriele Bortoleto gets a 9 from me this weekend. Pole position in tribute to his idol Senna. Then he worked his way back up to the field in the sprint race for 6th, and just got undercut at the start of the race, the feature race, by Hadjar, which made him get 2nd. But still a strong, dominant performance all weekend, but not quite a 10. I thought about it, but it's not quite there just yet. A really strong weekend overall for the F3 champion, and is keeping tabs on the front of the field as he fights for the championship. Now, MP Motorsport. Dennis Hauger, I'm going to give a 3. He qualified down 13th, then got caught up in the first corner accident as he had a really strong getaway, but got messed up by the cars going off ahead of him. I can't rate him low for the sprint race performance, but I can for his feature race performance, as he ultimately got caught in traffic and he couldn't work his way through the field despite this strong pace, and he finished down in 12th. Ultimately, an uninspiring weekend performance overall by a driver whose expectations towards the top of the order. Now his teammate, Franco Colapinto, a 9. A first F2 win for the 4th place driver in F3 last season, converting a front row performance in the sprint race into this achievement. He turned his 9th in qualifying to also a 6th in the feature race, which is very strong and shows that the car is decent, beating his much more experienced teammate in Hauger. The best weekend of his Formula 2 career as of yet. VAR next up, and Enzo Fittipaldi gets 2. Flashbacks to Bahrain as he gets 1 retirement and 1/17th place for the second weekend in 2024. That's the same results as Bahrain. He qualified 11th, which wasn't terrible, but he got caught out by the collision in the sprint race. Then couldn't make his way through the order in the feature race after pitting early and getting caught in traffic. Similar to a lot of other drivers. Very difficult track to overtake on, but still not a great weekend, hence a 2. Rafael Villagomez is next, and I give him a 4. A poor weekend for the Mexican yet again. Qualified in 19th and made up some paces in both races, getting 11th in the sprint and 16th in the feature. But if you don't get points, you don't get a good score, hence the 4. Now moving on to high tech. There's some big scores coming. Amaury Cordial, he gets an 8. A 10th in qualifying ensured pole for the sprint race, but he couldn't convert that into a podium, and as he dropped down to 4th. However, a strong alternate strategy performance meant he could have easily gotten a podium in the feature race. However, a pit stop where his mechanic didn't attach his wheel properly ruined his race. Not his fault though, so I'm still going to put him up there and thereabouts, but not go for him quite a 9 or a 10, where it's an amazing weekend. It's just a very strong weekend with a very solid pace, where maybe he could have qualified better, but he still could have converted it if there wasn't any mistakes by his team. And now we have Paul Aaron. He gets an 8. He closes the gap to Maloney for first in the championship with yet again another strong performance where he's always scoring strong points. An 8th in qualifying allowed him to get 2nd in the sprint, and he made up a couple of positions with a strong pace, getting 6th in the feature race. If he keeps scoring good points every weekend, they can see him win the championship. He hasn't won a race yet, but at this rate he doesn't need to. He'll be disappointed to not win the sprint, but these things happen, and he kept it clean and still got 2nd, so he'll take it. Can pass, with Isaac Hadjar getting a 9. Once again, this weekend could have been a 10 for Hadjar. Qualified 3rd and got taken out in the first corner of the sprint race, which I can't really fault him for. In the feature race though, he got out in front, and that was that. Hadjar's having quite the season, and if it wasn't for him getting some bad luck along the way, he could easily be way out ahead in the championship, but he's had bad luck, so he needs to kind of keep it together, keep it clean a few more times. Pepe Marti with a 4. Had a tough qualifying, only coming 14th. Then in the sprint race, dropped down the order for some reason. He wasn't involved in the whole collision, first lap collision, so not really sure what that was for. Maybe he pitted, maybe it wasn't really shown, wasn't really expanded upon, so a bit confusing. But in the feature race, he also did poor. Not his fault though, as the stray tyre from Cordial meant that his alternate pit stop strategy didn't work, as his mechanic kind of got a bit confused, didn't put on the wheel nut, which meant when he went off as well, he lost his tyre as well. So there was 2 stray tyres in the pit lane, Marti and Cordial. Both of them are not their fault, but Marti didn't score points Although he was going to, but I can't score him more than the 4 for not getting points, so that's where he is this weekend. And now we move on to the Trident team, starting with Richard Verschoor, a 7 for a double points finish for the Dutchman, after qualifying down in 16th, making up positions in both races to get 7th and 10th in the sprint and feature race respectively. Hopefully he can maintain this point scoring performance after also scoring points in the feature race in Australia. Well done Verschoor, keep it up. Roman Stanek, for me, gets a 3. It looks so positive for him at the start of the weekend, qualifying in 7th and coming off his win in Australia during the sprint race. But he did not have the race he would have hoped for, as his pace ultimately was not there in the feature race, and he got caught up in the incident during the sprint race. I think the feature race result is more why I scored him so low. He was holding up so many drivers in this big old train, but for a few laps he kept Maloney and Crawford behind him, but he couldn't quite hold it against the rest of the race and dropped down the order all the way. His tyres just went away from him. Bad luck. Good qualifying, but he didn't keep it together in the race. Sorry. Now we have a new team, well, a kind of new team. So PHM got rebranded to just AIX Racing. So now we have Joshua Dirkston, who gets a 9. Yet another victim of the first lap incident in the sprint race, but a 5th in qualifying allowed him to convert a famous feature race podium, as he becomes the first Paraguayan to reach that feat. He did it all in an AIX Racing car as well, which is notoriously poor, and so he'll be very happy. The new AIX Racing team ownership will be very happy as well. Congrats Joshua, keep it up. His teammate though, Taylor Barnard, gets a 5. He did come over the line in 7th in the sprint race, but the disqualification after makes him the only driver on the grid not to score any points so far. He qualified well in 11th, but did also come in 20th in the feature race. I kind of feel bad for him, it's not really his fault, but I can't score him above a 5 for not getting any points, so a 5 for Taylor. These are my ratings. Let me know what your ratings are in the comment section below. I'll be replying to all of them, so let's hear what driver you think that did the best, the worst this weekend. Maybe who was underrated. Yeah, I'll get down to you in the comments. Peace.